All right, who just threw their hat over the fence? Good. We need a couple of people on each side to come up here and talk about what you're going to do, your commitment. How are you going to make it inevitable that you reach the level of success that you want?
I'm Andrew.
Good, that's enough. You two guys, stay right there. You come over here, and you two guys. Will you guys, one of you walk over to this side?
I'm Andrew from Wisconsin. What I want to do is get into shape and to make sure that I actually study this program for the 90 days that Dave always suggests, which I usually don't do. I have a friend that has supported me in coming here, so my plan was to give him a check for $150, which for me is a lot of money. And if I don't exercise 5 days a week and study this stuff for every day for 90 days, he gets to cash the check.
Awesome. Nice work. You're outside your comfort zone right now, aren't you? Good job, man. Thank you.
David Delgado, Chicago. Similar to what the gentleman was talking about eating right and losing weight. I can lose weight. I've done it in the past, but then I gained it. It's not about exercise. It's about making a lifestyle change, about eating right and making decisions, and that's everyday basis. So I'm in a group called the Mankind Project. I'm gonna hold my feet to the fire. If I'm, and also I'm gonna bring it up to my coworkers as well. If I'm binging, I'm not following exercising, then I want to write them a check for $1,000.
$1,000,
Yep.
Nice. And what does binging mean? Let's get a little bit more
Binging,
clear.
eating late at night before I go to bed.
Are you going to make a list of the things that you're going to comply with and get
Yes.
to them?
Absolutely.
Okay, be specific. Okay,
And
be
detailed.
specific.
I'm gonna have to write down everything that I eat.
You're going to give them everything you eat? You're going to write down everything you eat?
everything that I eat.
Good job. All right,
Making a
that's a good
conscious
one.
awareness as well. And if I'm leaning toward like a craving, I have to call one of my brothers.
Excellent. Good.
Thank you.
Nice work.
What's going on? Greg from Manhattan.
Yeah. How's it going?
Pretty much since college, I've always wanted to get up early in the morning, do yoga, meditate, center myself before my whole day. Something I've always idealized. Probably done it about 5 times since then. So the suggestion about the money, writing a check to somebody, that's good, but I feel like I would work a little bit better if it was something kind of humiliating and embarrassing. So I'm up for any ideas.
I'm down with humiliating and embarrassing. I can work with that.
So
You want to do it every day while you're here?
Sure.
Sure. Did you see that? He's like, wait a minute. You mean like start now? Have the life I want starting immediately? Huh. Okay, we can help you. Is anybody into humiliation with this guy? We can figure out something. Do you like dog food?
Not a fan, no.
Have you ever tried it?
Maybe a long time ago.
You did? What's your favorite flavor?
I don't remember what brand it was. I think I was like 6 or 7. I did try a spoonful of it. I didn't keep doing it, so apparently I didn't like it.
Okay, you just didn't try the right kind.
Yeah.
Would you eat dog food?
No.
No? Cat food? No? Not even not even to get yourself motivated to do something?
No, I think, actually.
No, it's not that important.
It's.
Really? So in other words, you're not willing to eat a spoon of dog food if you don't do your yoga and meditation?
No, okay, I'd do that.
Oh, we're rounding the corner here, guys. This is good.
No, I'm thinking like, here we have like
No,
something
you know what? Dog food's good enough. I like that. I like where this is going right now. How about this? How much do you do yoga? Do you know how to do any yoga?
Yes.
You do? How much yoga and meditation would you like to do?
Ideally, it would be 30 minutes of yoga and then meditation afterwards.
How about 10 minutes of yoga and 5 minutes of meditation this week? Can you do 15 minutes?
Yes.
Can you? Okay, so Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, every day.
Gotcha.
Okay. What kind of dog food are we talking, guys? Alpo? For some reason, Alpo sounds like it. We'll get you the canned.
Okay.
Because, okay.
It's fresher.
So you're going to report back. You're going to do it every day for 4 days. 10 minutes of yoga, 5 minutes of meditation. Just 15 minutes every day for the 4 days that you're here. Okay, good. And then what I'd like you to do is come up with what you're going to do when you get home. And I'd use the dog food with whoever's going to hold you accountable at home.
Okay.
That's good. Start now.
All right.
It's good. Thank you. It's a good one. Write this down. Words of wisdom from my friend Wyatt Woodsmall. If you want to change a habit, there are 2 laws. 2 laws. Number 1, start now. Law number 2, don't deviate. Start now and don't deviate. Good.
My name is Mark. I'm from Nova Scotia, Canada. My biggest thing is that
I didn't know which Nova Scotia you meant, so thanks for clarifying.
Thanks, no problem. In my line of work, I take support calls. So what I have to do is I have to bill the times for the clients when the calls come in. My biggest thing is I keep forgetting to do this every time they call, and I don't bill. So at the end of the week, when my bosses are looking at how much time I billed, it's really low, and it's kind of hard to get a promotion or anything like that.
Yep.
So I have to kind of get into the habit of doing that, billing all the clients that call in. So one of the things that I was thinking about doing is, because they're my bosses, is getting them to take away half of my paycheck for, let's just say, in a matter of a week, I'd have a goal of hours that I was supposed to bill. So if I don't reach that goal, that's what they would do.
That's a man who's committed. He's going to make it inevitable. That's good. Do that. I want to ask you do one extra thing.
Yeah.
Okay? Go to your bosses and say to them, I'm disappointed with my own ability to get this done. I'm just being absent-minded. Will you please help me, number 1, by doing this with the money, but number 2, and say to them, I don't want you to, because I want you to keep the money so you can have it, I want you to do it for me. So you're going to have to insist, because they're going to say, I don't want to really do this and whatever. So you have to insist. But number 2, ask for their help and say, will you remind me throughout the day? Get encouragement from them, okay? Because having someone that's more of a mentor, that's reminding you on a regular basis and keeping you accountable is, in this kind of situation, very powerful. Good. That's a good one. One last one. One more. What's happening, man?
Yes, I'm Excel from Atlanta.
Old school.
You
Go ahead.
guys should be clapping right now. I've realized in the last 2 or 3 months that I've become very complacent in my business, and skill level, there's probably not too many people that's better than me, but I've reached a plateau and I'm not pushing myself, and I'm not dedicating enough time in the day to the different activities that I need to do to make my business work. And in the 3 areas, I'm going to now commit to spending 3 hours a day working on, clients' credit files, 2.5 hours a day working on business credit profiles, and 1.5 hours of real estate per day. And I might need to limit that, because the real estate is kind of like my personal thing. But, my business is, dealing with the personal credit and business credit. And what I'm going to do is, I hate to clean. That's like a real big thing for me. And I have a storage bin, and it's just full of a bunch of junk. So if I don't hold myself accountable, and I'm going to use my business partner, I'm going to use an assistant who works for me, and then like a old business partner who, all these people know me well. So once a day, Monday through Friday, I'm going to call them and let them know what I did for that day. And I honestly think that that's going to work more so than, putting a dollar figure out there and then making my business partner make me go clean up in that storage bin, because I hate that.
One other thing I want to recommend that you add to that is, if you're getting complacent, if you're better than you are, but you're just not living it, you might need to find someone who's at a much higher skill level to hang out with you.
Okay.
find yourself a mentor who's way beyond you.
Okay.
Okay, if you find someone that's 3 or 5 years more developed, okay, that's just at a whole other level, and you get some coaching and mentoring, even if you have to pay for it, it's very valuable. Because something happens, when you get good at something, you start to go, okay, I'm good, I got that handled. And your mind just starts to, in some cases, just says, I don't really need to go further. But if you want to go further, having that role model, that model of someone who's way beyond you, around you, very powerful. So you might add that to the mix so that you really take your thinking to the next level. Thank you, Excel.
Okay. Thank you.
Good one. Now let's talk about the paradox of personal evolution. It's another thing that I learned from my good friend Wyatt Woodsmall. If you're hearing this, Wyatt, I appreciate you. Wyatt tells a story about how he went to a friend of his who was wanting to change, and she was talking about how she wanted to change, and she said, Wyatt, I want to change. And he said, great, I can help you. What do you want to do? And she said, I want to do this. And he said, perfect, I can help you do that. He said, if you want to do that thing, all you have to do is this. And she said, but I couldn't. He said, why not? And she said, because that wouldn't be me. That wouldn't be me. And that's the paradox. In order to get different results, you have to do different things. And in order to do different things, you must become not me. You must do things that aren't you. In order to become not me, some part of you must die. Some part of you must go, must fade. And it's actually not enough to become not me once. You have to continue becoming not me if you're going to continue to evolve. So the gentleman who wants to spend a half hour an evening, what was your name again? Brian. So Brian, who wants to spend a half hour every night with his son, dialoguing about what the son is learning, and he wants to do that in the long term, and he has trouble because his mind is always going and he goes off and gets distracted doing things. He is going to have to become not him. The old version of Brian is going to have to go away, and he's going to have to marshal new resources. He's going to have to become a new Brian. But it doesn't just stop there, because once Brian gets to the level where he can do that consistently, then he's going to want to add another thing, and he's going to have to let another part of him go. So continually becoming not me, letting go of who you think you are, is the only way to change long term. So you're clinging, you're holding on to the old you is what's preventing you from changing. And I deal with this all the time when I talk to men. And I say, well, here, just do this thing. And they go, it doesn't seem like it would be me. That doesn't feel like it would be me to say that. I wouldn't normally say something like that. You have to say things that aren't you. You have to think things that aren't you. Another fascinating little nugget that I've learned over the last few years is that we unconsciously hold on to things, grasp, get attached to, identify with. We even do it with our muscles. Tension in the back, and in the legs, and in the head, and in the shoulders, and other places, is typically happening not because you exerted yourself too much or you overdid it, or not because you're wounded. It's because your unconscious mind is tensing that muscle. And it tenses it for so long that it starts to pull you out of whack. Clenching. It's called clenching a muscle. It's happening unconsciously. So in life, we unconsciously clench and hold on to and identify ourselves with things. And the only way to let go of them is to consciously say, no, relax, relax. In some forms of therapy, and I'm not a therapist or a doctor, so you'd want to check on this one with your therapist, but in some forms of physical therapy, if you have something that's tense and you can't relax it, what they'll do is they'll have you tense it even more consciously, and then consciously relax it. And then tense it even more consciously, and then consciously relax it. Why? Because you're going and taking conscious control back over that part that you used to have clenched. I've found that if I slept weird, or I've sat weird for a couple of days or something, and I'm feeling some back pain or some neck pain, something was just kind of out of whack, that if I really notice, in a lot of cases I'll be holding on to it, I'll be tensing it to try to protect it, and that by consciously relaxing, in a lot of cases, a lot of the pain will just go away. Well, this happens with our self-images as well. We get attached to, identified with, we clench, we hold on to our self-image, and we don't want to let it go. Unconsciously, outside of our awareness. In order to change, you need to become not you. In order to become not you, you need to let go of the old you. You need to become okay with the old you dying, going away. An interesting thought is that, like I said, your idea of who you are is really only a simulation anyway. Your self-image is something that you made up in your mind. It's a map that you put in there. It's not really who you are. It never is really who you are for anyone. One of the obstacles to doing this is another thing my friend Wyatt taught me, is other people don't like it when you are outside of your comfort zone. Okay, so other people in your life don't like it when you're outside of your comfort zone. Why? Can I get that flip chart? Why? Because it puts them outside of their comfort zones. When you're outside of your comfort zone around another person, they're outside of their comfort zone almost by definition. And write this one down. When you change, the things that they do to manipulate you stop working. And they don't like that. Quick little refresher. Human comfort zone. Something my mentor Jerry taught me. You can chart this just like you'd chart a number sequence in a run chart. This is your upper control limit of your comfort zone, your lower control limit. And this operates just like a thermostat on the wall in your house. You're going along within your comfort zone. Okay? Now what happens when you get to close to the edge of your comfort zone? Everything inside you starts to pull you back. Your mind starts to come up with logical reasons why you shouldn't do this. Not a good idea. Your emotions start to become uncomfortable. Your emotions say, I don't like the way this feels. Physically, you become uncomfortable. Physical tension, anxiety, things pop in your head. I need to mobilize and move myself. I need to get away from this thing. Most people live their whole life in this zone. That's where they stay. And they've got a million logical reasons for it that are very, very convincing. It's dangerous to get outside of this comfort. I might die. Something bad might happen financially. People that do this are stupid. They're crazy. But what happens when you do get outside your comfort zone? What happens? Right? Breakthrough? Change? Comfort zone what? Your comfort zone increases. Good. What else? Feels good. Not as bad as you think. confidence increases. It's really interesting, right? That's what happens. And we know that. We know that once we cross that line outside of our comfort zone, that something good is going to happen. But we got to face the resistance that we deal with in order to get there. The objective here during this program, while you are studying this program, is to continually get outside of your comfort zone. Continually and habitually get outside of your comfort zone. Physically, you want to do it emotionally, and you want to do it logically. All three brain realms. You want to do things that are outside your comfort zone physically. That might mean stretching a little more than usual. Might mean doing some exercise. Might mean getting some dance lessons. You want to get outside your comfort zone emotionally. That might mean experiencing an emotion that you normally don't let in. It might mean sharing an emotion or admitting that you're having an emotion with someone else that you wouldn't normally admit. You want to get outside logically. You want to get new perspectives. You want to try on new belief systems. You want to see if you can understand how another person thinks that you would normally just completely discount. Get outside your comfort zone regularly. We win in this room and in this program and in this whole man transformation body of knowledge when we get outside of our comfort zones. And we win in life when we get outside of our comfort zone. So we're going to get outside of our comfort zones. That's how we win. Is it important?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
How do you know when it's...
Come up here to the mic.
I'm Yuri from Montreal.
How's it going, Yuri?
Good, you?
Good.
I have a lot of your programs, so I've been studying a lot of that stuff. I've also looked at a lot of Brian Tracy.
Yeah.
A lot of the materials are similar. It's great. So I've been doing this for about 3 years.
Uh-huh.
So I feel like I really get it. I really understand a lot of that stuff.
Yeah.
But I got to a point, almost a little bit like the guy mentioned, it gets frustrating because you're just better at making the mistake a bigger one.
Yeah.
Which was a big aha for me, actually. Though getting out of the comfort zone, how do you know when it's you pushing it or you getting it? See, remember you gave the example, I love your W dating, you look like a bitch. Remember you were saying if the guy went up to a girl and just overdid it and said, you look like a bitch, and gets slapped in the face, and that was on your W dating series. How do you know when that's a sign of you getting ahead, it's just the other people not comfortable about it, like you said, getting out of their comfort zone, and by doing so resisting, or is it positive resistance that you should know better and maybe, you know what I mean?
Why does that matter?
Because we all here for the purpose of bettering ourselves.
Uh-huh.
So what are the elements you look for when you're getting yourself out of the comfort zone? We have to be careful at some point because we don't know, are we getting outside in a negative way or are we getting outside in a positive way?
Okay, so the question you're asking is, how do we know when we're getting outside in a way that's healthy versus not healthy?
Right.
Do you really not know when you're getting outside your comfort zone and it's healthy or unhealthy? I mean, in your heart of hearts,
right,
when you do something and you get outside your comfort zone and then you let a little time pass and you look back, you really can't tell whether it was a positive change or a negative one?
Sometimes I cannot tell, to be honest with you. Yeah, because you don't know if that feedback was qualified or not. So you're wondering, is it me or was it just them not liking that I'm getting ahead? You see what I mean? Again, I think it maybe...
I do. What I hear, though, and I'm making a lot of presupposition, like I'm judging a lot here in what I'm about to say.
That's good.
But what I hear you expressing to me is more insecurity than anything.
Okay.
That's what I hear right now is insecurity.
Okay.
Because I think that if you really ask yourself, was my intention right? And I think that if you really get to the point where you feel secure in yourself, I don't think you need to ask that question. I think you know whether you were coming from the right place or not.
And just go along like that and just keep, evolving.
You got to keep evolving.
Yeah.
I mean, as they say, if you want to bake a cake, you got to break a few eggs.
Right.
You're going to screw some things up in life, okay? Let me give you an example here. In my past, right, when I started this stuff, my first writings, my first teachings were kind of expressed actually on Cliff. Where you at? You in the back here? Cliff's List. That was really where I kind of published my first stuff before I ever wrote Double Your Dating. By the way, if you're not on Cliff's list, you need to go meet Cliff because he's got a great list. And I published some things on there. And then I took, the first thing that I did, actually, this is the way that kicked it all off. One night I was sick, and a couple of my friends were going out to party all night. And they were like, we're going to go party. And I said, I'm sick. I'm just going to stay home tonight. And I was bummed that I couldn't go out. But I thought, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to contribute back to Cliff's list because I had read a lot of his stuff, and I had never contributed anything. So I stayed up literally all night. My friends went out at 7 or 8, and when they came back at 2 or 3, I was hammering away. And I wrote this thing that was probably 12 or 13 pages, and I published it there. And that was what I originally took and expanded into Double Your Dating. Took those notes. When I go back and I read that right now, parts of me cringe because I think to myself, man, I was angry. And I didn't know it. I used terms, like I said, when you're talking to a chick, do this. And I could see that I had a little bit of disrespect in me and things that, like now I think, I just wouldn't want anyone to really see that, But that's where I was at then. And I have to go back and say, now, was I wrong when I learned these things and I interacted with a woman and I treated her like a chick who was trying to test me and I'm going to just like beat through those emotions so I can get laid kind of thing? Yeah. I see a lot of people moving nervously and uncomfortably in this room as I say this right now. Okay, that's good. Be with that and be with me. On the balance, I think I was coming from a good place. Okay, I don't think that I actually, when it comes down to it, if you put me in a situation with a woman, I would not intentionally lie or deceive her or do something that I thought would hurt her just to get something back from her. But I did have some anger and I did have some issues and I was kind of seeking little ways to, manipulate the situation and what have you. But overall, fundamentally, I was coming from a good place. I was trying to develop myself. I was trying to figure out how to relate to women. I was trying to unlock this code, okay? So I think when you look at it, you can discern where you're coming from. I think you can figure out whether you're getting outside the comfort zone in a positive way or a negative one. And if you don't know, if you really don't know, then you might want to just give that some time because time will show it to you. Time, experience, you'll be able to see it more clearly. Typically when you're in the moment and you're inside of it, it's very hard to see.
So you suggest that we just go with what we feel is right at the moment, and as we evolve, we can look back, okay, that, and then make our corrections like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Be willing to screw up a little bit.
Right.
Don't be too attached to doing everything perfectly. Right. But as long as you're coming from the right place, I think you're going to be okay.
Cool. Great. Yeah. Thanks. That answers the question.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thanks.
Okay, good. Thanks for asking the question. I could tell that there was a little bit of weirdness going on in the room, and so I wanted to take that because it sounded like it might be a little bit confusing. Next idea. New behaviors are very important. Learning new things that lead to new behavior is critical. And here's one of the reasons why. New behavior leads to what's called neurogenesis. Neurogenesis. That's the generation of new neurons and new neuronal connections in the mind. New behavior, neurogenesis. Same behaviors over and over. You just lay a path over those neural connections and you just keep stabilizing them, making them stronger and reinforcing them so that your mind automatically goes down those paths. When you do new things, you create new connections, and then you do something else new and you create new connections. And as far as I can tell, and the scientists can tell that I've studied, you can keep doing this for the rest of your life, forever. You can keep generating new neurons and create new neural connections. And as it turns out, doing new behaviors and creating new neural connections keeps you feeling young. It keeps the mind young. And when you don't do new behaviors and create new connections, your mind feels old. It habituates. There's actually a process called myelination where this substance kind of forms on the network connections, and you just become an old, decrepit structure that's just continually doing the same thing. You get trapped in there. So new behaviors equal neurogenesis. You want to behave in new and different ways regularly. Another benefit that Wyatt taught me is if you keep getting outside your comfort zone and you keep doing new things, other people will look at you and say, you're crazy. Because you have to be. Only people that are crazy do things that are different all the time. Only crazy people get outside their comfort zone. But that's good, because then when you do new things all the time, they'll say, oh, they're just crazy. Don't pay any attention to them. It's cool. They'll accept you that way. It'll be all right. A great model of this, I remember when I was talking to Jeffrey Miller, if you maybe heard my interview with him or saw him speak in my Advanced Dating Techniques program. He was talking to me about rock stars, and he said, rock stars live outside of the cultural norm. Their whole life is just lived in this outside of the societal norms. And we think they're so cool because of it, because they're unapologetically crazy. Now, you can't go too far. You don't want to go start, killing people and, eating them like Hannibal Lecter or anything weird like that, okay? You don't want to go that kind of crazy. But just doing things that aren't you gets you that benefit. People go, oh, you're crazy? And you say, great, perfect. So then it's easier for you to do things. Remember, people are going to resist because the ways that they used to manipulate you stop working. When you change, you get outside your comfort zone, it puts them outside their comfort zones. And what's great is that when you push past your comfort zone, when you get out of it, this awesome process happens. The first thing that happens when you get close to here, when you get to right here, fear starts to set in. Anxiety. And as you're crossing over the comfort zone, that's when you get the rush. That's when that rush of something new. That's when the rush of going over the top, the first hill on that roller coaster, and you start to come down the next side. Once you've done it, there's actually a natural feeling of elation, of satisfaction. And it's a beautiful experience to go through when you do it. As you're coming down, you'll still feel kind of freaked out. You'll be like, oh, I did it. I can't believe I did it. Wow. But then you'll notice over the next day or so, you'll have this wonderful feeling. You'll know, a part of you will know that you did something that's really for your higher good. And that will continue to help you transform. It'll go in a transformation cycle. Is this important? Super important? Okay. Grab this mic right over here.
I'm Jordan from New York.
How's it going?
Speaking about comfort zones, I was actually been wanting to come up here every single time you've asked someone to come up to the mic, but for the last 20 minutes or so, I've been fighting with myself to just get my hand up and just come up here, because my main problem is that I've been good with women, but I just can't do the cold approach. That's been my biggest limiting action, I'd say. And coming up here right now is just something I feel like I need to do to break through it, or else the rest of the day I'm just going to say I should have done it.
Give me the rock. And coincidentally, it's time to do something that's not you right now. Do something that would get you outside of your comfort zone right now.
Hey, be quiet over there.
Think about something you could do right now in this context that would get you outside your comfort zone. Anything. What could you do? Get you outside your comfort zone. Good. What could you do right now to get outside? You don't have to do something outrageous. You don't have to do something weird. But what could you do to get yourself outside your comfort zone? Oh, man. Without touching me.
Nice to meet you. When you're doing the when you're saying
Get over to the mic over there. By the way, stay off this stage from now on, or I will bite you.
But when you're saying for everyone to introduce themselves this morning, I'd seen that no one was saying, "Hey, David, hi David, my name's John."
Yeah.
Or I was tempted to do that, but I was like, I don't want to do it. I don't know. Should I do it? Should I not? But now I did. So.
Nice work. Okay, so good. Give him a round of applause. Good. In your private space right now, I want you to come up with something that you can do that's outside of your comfort zone. Outside your comfort zone. For this exercise, let's choose something that we would normally never tell someone that we don't know. If you're watching the program right now, you can do this with someone you don't know. Go find a stranger. Start a conversation. What's something that you would normally never admit to another person? Not too weird, okay? But it's just something you would normally never admit to a stranger. You'd normally never say this to another person. Something that's true for you. Something that is your truth experientially in your life. Turn and tell somebody something you'd normally never say to someone you don't know. Get outside your comfort zone. You got 30 seconds each. Go. All right. Good. Close your eyes. Close your eyes. Take a deep breath. Just notice how you feel. Had to push through that anxiety, that fear. Did it. Notice how you feel. You got outside your comfort zone. Good. Now come back. Good. Good. All right, who went through that experience of feeling the fear and the anxiety coming, pushing through, and now realizing it's okay and that you could do that again if you needed to? All right, nice, nice. So I want to reaffirm, we win here in this program by getting outside of our comfort zones. That's what we're doing. We are continually getting outside of our comfort zones. If you continually get outside your comfort zone, physically, emotionally, and logically, you will transform. You will reach a critical mass. You will have a moment come where you will look back and say, I feel like a different person than I was. That person is still there, but somehow I have expanded. I have transcended that original me. I have gone to the next level. Who is going to get outside their comfort zone a lot during this program? Who's ready? Yes. 2 hands. That's what I'm talking about. Give someone a high five. Nice. As it turns out, behavior change is tough. It's not as easy as we think. Sure, if I say, hey, stand on your chair, you'll go, this is kind of weird, but you'll stand up on your chair. But standing up on your chair every day for your own good, consistently, persistently, that's the trick. And through a lot of research and trying to figure this out for myself, I've discovered some of the reasons why I think behavior change is so hard. I'll give you a couple more clues. One other reason why behavior change is difficult and something we can do to overcome that difficulty, get ourselves to change, and ultimately get the long-term results we want, okay? Because changing your behavior long term does help you get the results you want. If you can't change your behavior, then you can't get them. One thing that allows us to do that is harnessing and focusing our willpower. Our willpower. Especially this last maybe 6 months or so, I've been trying to study this idea a lot, the idea of will and willpower. And I now describe willpower as being the most precious and rare form of energy that we have, is willpower. The rarest and most precious, the most important form of energy that we get, willpower. Will. And what is will? It's that ability to get ourselves to do something that we wouldn't normally do. Intentionality of thought, emotion, behavior. That's the definition to the description we're going to use. It turns out that we pretty much do the same things every day. We think the same thoughts every day. We feel the same emotions. We do the same behaviors day after day after day. And we think that because they're in a slightly different order, that we got to control them that day. But they're really not. We really are thinking the same things, doing the same things. And we get into these habits. We'll talk more about this later in the program, but habit patterns of movement, habit patterns of emotion, habit patterns of thought, and they eventually wear these grooves into us. Muscle memory, emotional triggers, patterns of thought. Can't get out of them. Well, willpower is that magical energy that allows us to say, you know what, no, I feel pulled in this direction where I would normally go, but I'm going to go do this other thing right now. That's where the willpower comes in. And again, as I mentioned, we get very little of it. This is something I learned from Tony Schwartz. We get very little willpower, and we usually burn it on things that don't help us. We typically burn our willpower on things that do not help us out long term. So there's some interesting psychological tests that have been done recently where they've asked people to try to control themselves in various ways, and then they put them through a battery of tests. As you know, scientists that torture humans and animals, it's one of my favorite things to read about. I'm glad I don't have to do it. And what they found, one study I read about as an example, was they had people watch a movie that was a particularly emotional movie. And they said to one group, they said to the control group, they said, just watch the movie. To the second group, the subjects, they said, watch the movie, but repress your emotions. Do not respond emotionally. And then after they watched the movie, they had them do a psychological test. It was a concentration test where they had to match colors. And it turned out it was a very kind of grueling, intense test psychologically because the colors were very similar to each other. And so they really had to look closely and use a lot of brain power. And it turns out that the people who were asked to repress their emotions did much worse on the psychological tests. They couldn't focus themselves. They couldn't marshal their willpower to pay attention to what was going on. Why? Because they had used it up holding their emotions back. So we actually burn a lot of our willpower on internal conflict, external conflict, when something comes up for us and we're trying to hold it down. Does this make sense to you? Get a little bit of willpower. Most of the time we burn it. Another thing I learned from Tony Schwartz is that when we're in negative energy, we're burning our energy very inefficiently. We're gas hogs. So when you're in anxiety or fear, you're not only burning your energy on something negative, you're burning more. It's like pushing the gas pedal down really hard. So that's what we're doing with our willpower. We're not even aware that it's happening. As it turns out, awareness, by the way, is the most valuable state we get, being aware. Just waking up for a second and saying, oh, right, I'm alive, and I'm going to be alive for only a short period of time. So when we have awareness, we need to focus that willpower on doing things that create routines in our life. And we'll talk more about that. The trick here, if you want to change your behavior long term, is to use that little bit of willpower that you get every day to do something that will become a routine, that will become habitual. Do you remember earlier when I was talking to the gentleman and I said, take the highest priority thing and do it earlier in the day? Why do we do that? There are several reasons. One of them is you have a bigger reservoir of willpower earlier in the day. It hasn't been sucked up by your email and your text messages and your anxiety. So I wouldn't do the high priority thing first. And the high leverage way to do this is to wake up every day, focus your willpower in the first part of the day on that new thing you want to do, and do it day after day after day after day. And you'll find that after a few weeks, 30 days, might take 6 weeks, 8 weeks, of really focusing that willpower on that one thing over and over and over, eventually your mind takes over, and the incredible power of habit pulls you to the thing that you wanted to do. It becomes the thing that you do automatically. But you've got to program yourself to do it. Another thing this requires, by the way, is admitting to yourself that you're not going to be able to do it in the moment when you want to. That it's going to require doing it in advance, creating a practice. When someone has something they know they should be doing in the moment, let's say you're teaching someone sales techniques, and one of the techniques that you teach the person is to get into rapport with the other person before they make their sales presentation. And they do a sales presentation, and they don't get into rapport with the person first, and it doesn't go well. And you say, how did you do? The person says, oh, you know what? I forgot to get into rapport first, and I didn't do very well. And then what do they say next? I've got to remember to do that next time. That's what usually comes up for us. I've got to remember to do that next time. I've got to remember to do that next time. Trying to remember to do it next time never works. It doesn't work to remember to do it next time. What works is practicing, is doing it ritualistically, proactively. And when I say practice, I don't mean rehearsal, although that's part of it. I mean creating a practice that you make yourself do so that you are ready. So that when you sit down at the next sales presentation, you don't have to remember anything because it's automatic to go into rapport. Okay, so awareness, the rarest and most valuable state that we get. What we're trying to do here in Man Transformation is get some awareness. We're trying to wake up for a minute, come out of the trance and the fog that we live in most of the time, realize that we're essentially machines that are out of control, and see, oh, okay, if I do this new thing, if I talk to my son every night for 30 minutes, in 20 years, he and I are going to be in a much better place. And if I don't, then we're not going to be. And while I'm aware for that little space, that little moment, I need to remember to marshal my willpower on a daily basis, making sure I do the thing, put some accountability in place, make it inevitable, so that in 30 days or 60 days or 90 days, I'm doing it all the time, and it's just what I do. So that'll free up the willpower so I can go to work on the next one. Are you seeing the leverage power if you can get this? Do you understand how powerful and important this is? If you got nothing, if you walked out the door right now, if you stopped this program, stopped watching it, stopped going through it right now, and you just did this one thing every day, the beginning of the day, woke up, had a little bit of awareness, marshaled your willpower, and put it into a new thing that you were doing, and made it into a habit and then went on to the next one, that would change your life. It would probably be the most significant thing you ever did in your life. It would have the most significant impact on the long term of your life. So what prevents us from doing this neat little process of when we have awareness, going, oh, I see what I need to do, marshaling our willpower, putting it into process every day so that it becomes habitual, and then moving on to the next one? Well, it starts all the way upstream at awareness itself. Awareness is very rare. Being able to see yourself, step outside, see the way things really are. Awareness is very rare. And when it comes up, what we typically do is we push it away. We have these little games we play psychologically where we avoid it. We don't want to hear it. I have a very good friend, an amazing friend. Her name's Andrea, and she teaches me yoga. And we're also just socially friends. And one day she came over, I don't know, this was probably a couple of months ago, to teach me some yoga. And she said, I can't remember exactly what she said to me, but she said something like, you have this amazing power to, be present. Or she was giving me some compliment. It's like to be present. And I said, yeah, it's that or this, and I kind of joked about it. And she looked at me and didn't flinch. She just said, no, that's the little game you're playing right now to deflect what I just said. And then she went right on with what she was saying. And I saw for a minute, right, that there's my game. There it is for a second. She was giving me some awareness. She was showing me, opening the window for a moment. And instead of just being there with her and going where she was going, I deflected it. I played humble and I said, yeah. Now, she wouldn't accept that from me. She knew that I was better than that. And she knew that that was my little game. And she knew that it would be okay to say it without being weird at all. And she said, no, that's your little game you're playing right there. You don't need to do that. And we went right on and we got right into it, and it was okay. One of the things that prevents us from having awareness is that when it pops up, we deflect it. We've got these games we play. And when someone else is having a moment and they're doing their thing, we won't tell them. And we won't make it okay for them to tell us. We try to live in this comfortable little world where we don't want to offend each other. We don't want to point out where we're screwing up. When awareness comes, revere it. Be very grateful for it. Take that moment to let it in. Welcome in whatever it's showing to you. Tad James has a great metaphor. I think he said, I think this was originally from Carl Jung. He said that in the shadow, in the darkness of your mind, in the deep recesses, when something wants to come up, when it wants to show you something, it's like a black velvet bag is being handed up from the unconscious to you. And it's your choice to say, okay, I'm ready, and to open it and to look inside, or not. And what we mostly do is we say, I'm not ready. When the bag comes up, we say, oh, I don't even want to look in there and see what's really in there. So we push it back down. And then it grows and it becomes more complex. So when the moment of awareness comes, or you start to feel like you might be able to be aware of something if you just relax and let it show up, do that. It's important. So stop avoiding awareness. When it comes, be really grateful for it. Stop burning your willpower. If you've got conflict in your life, things that are conflicting, friction, try to get rid of some of that stuff. We will also talk a little bit more about that during the program, but you really need to notice where there's structural things in your life that are set up that are just burning your willpower, causing conflict, making it so that you get emotionally freaked out and you've got to deal with that, or deal with people you don't want to deal with. That's burning your vital energy. That's burning that little bit of energy that could change your life. You're not even aware of it. And then ultimately cultivate awareness and cultivate willpower. So in your life structurally, see if you can work on getting rid of those things that burn your willpower and start conserving that energy for yourself. Use it to make yourself strong first. A couple of more keys to behavior change. There's actually a formula that has been developed. There are variations of it in different places. Neurolinguistic programming has some great stuff on behavior change. One of the things you need for behavior change is you need the outcome that you want. You need to know what the outcome is. And a mistake that a lot of us make when we're thinking of the outcome is we're not clear on what we actually want it to be. I've met very few people. I would be surprised if 5 people of the, 330 or 50 people in this room did this naturally and habitually now. And that is, when you're creating the outcome, to have it be specific and measurable and result-oriented. So as an example, let's say you had a financial goal. I said, okay, what's the financial outcome you want? Most people would say, well, I want to be rich, or I want to be financially comfortable, or I want to have enough money in the bank to buy the things I want to buy. Does that make sense? Is that specific and measurable? Nope. Is it clear? No, it isn't. I want to have $1 million in cash in the bank 10 years from today. That's specific and measurable. We talked a little bit about motivation. In order to get from where you are to there, you need your why. You need your reason why. In fact, about 1/3 of all humans are a learning style that can basically be called the why learning style. Unless they know the reason why they're doing something, they can't do it, they can't understand it, they can't even let it in. All they're doing is asking, why am I learning this? Why are we even doing this? Why? I am not one of those learning styles, so I have to condition myself to constantly remind myself to explain why we're doing this in the first place. Why are we learning this thing? What's the outcome that we're going to get? Who here is probably a why learning style? Raise your hand. Good, right? About 1/3 of the people. So having your why is very important. Your reason for it. And the thing itself can be a good reason, but typically an outcome that we want is only a means. It's a means to get to something else. The $1 million isn't so you can just have $1 million. That's not going to do anything. It's a means to get some other result or to buy something. And ultimately, it's usually a feeling. Typically, there's one of 3 or 5 feelings that's behind all of these things. But what is your why? Another factor is visualization, imagining a clear picture of the outcome that you want and seeing it in your mind. Why do we visualize? Why do we imagine the outcome specifically that we want? Why do we get our reason why, the motivation for doing it? And then why do we visualize? I think of the mind, something I've been saying lately is I think of the mind as the Google for goals. The Google for goals. What do I mean by that? Well, Google is a miracle of modern times. You can pull it up on your computer instantly from anywhere. You can type in a few words, and you can use billions of dollars worth of technology, research. Some of the smartest computer scientists that have ever lived. You can access this thing for free, bam, and get this thing to go out and search all of the data on the internet and pull up the things that are relevant to what you want to find. It's miraculous. Is it that little web page that's doing it? No. It's these huge server farms and all these algorithms and all this complex stuff to get you that result in like 0.00013 of a second. Incredible. Well, your brain and your mind are more powerful than Google. We still haven't figured out how to reverse engineer the human mind. They're working on it. But this thing you've got right here is actually more powerful than all of that equipment in many senses. And I think of the mind as the Google for goals, because just like you can go to the Google and type in the thing you want, press the button, if you do what I told you, imagine the specific outcome that you want, get your reason why, and then visualize it clearly, right? And do things like make it inevitable. And then visualize and visualize and visualize and get it so deeply ingrained in your mind that it's second nature. You start to reorganize reality. Your map in your head starts to change. Reality begins to change. And you start to reorganize everything that you have and moving toward that goal. You start to notice the connections that will lead there. You become conscious of it. Your reticular activating system fires up and it starts to see all of the things that it wouldn't have seen before. You know the system that when you buy a car, you realize they're everywhere, you see them and you didn't see them before, that part of you, that's your reticular activating system. When you get into a certain flow or frame of mind or certain hobby, that's it, your brain sees it everywhere because you're alert to it. So your mind is like a Google for goals. Except with the mind, it takes a little longer. Okay, it doesn't take 0.00013 to find a little web page. It takes a little bit of time putting that in to really have it register, really have the unconscious mind go, this is really something we're going to do, huh? Okay. And through repeated visualization and affirmation of that clear, specific outcome with the motivation and the reason why, that's when it snaps into action and it just starts pulling you toward it. I'm not saying anything that's new here. Read Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill and you'll see what I'm talking about, just explained in different words. I'm just trying to break it down into a little bit more basic chunks that I think can help you understand and take action with it. Another thing that's valuable that you can do, that's also a great lesson from hypnosis and neurolinguistic programming, is future pacing and anchoring. Who here knows what future pacing is? Okay. Who knows what anchoring is? Okay. So future pacing and anchoring. A future pace is essentially preparing you so that when you arrive at that time in the future, you're ready to take action on the thing that you want to do. Have you ever made a decision, okay, I'm going to do this thing the next time I'm in that situation. I'm just going to do it. And then you got there and you forgot? Kind of a physical future pace might be something like, I don't know how long ago it was, but a couple of years ago or so, I got into a new health program where I decided that it was time for me to really get everything locked down. One of the elements was water, first thing when I wake up. Half liter of water before I do anything else. Very first thing, because I've been sleeping all night. I'm the most dehydrated that I will have been. So I would wake up and not drink the water and forget, and then I realized, you know what, why don't I take the water and put it in my way? So at the first place I go in the morning, it'll be there. So I'd take a half liter of water and I'd put it on my bathroom sink on the edge. So I'd wake up and walk into my bathroom and it would be the first thing I'd see. And I'd be like, oh yeah, right, okay, drink the water. Now I don't need to do that anymore. Now I wake up and the very first thing I do is I walk all the way over into my kitchen and I take out the bottle of water and I drink a half liter of water. Because it's wired. I don't need to put something in my way. That would be like a physical future pace. There's a reminder there. Well, you can do this mentally as well, because ultimately there will be cues, there will be things that will tip you off that it's time to take this new action. So let's say I'm that salesperson and I've decided the first thing I want to do when I sit down with my new prospect is get into rapport with them. I want to have a connection with them. I want to get on the same page, synchronize, relate. To future pace myself, I might imagine one thing that always happens right at the very beginning of any sales presentation. Okay? So let's say that the first thing that I do is I take out my presentation binder. That's always the first thing that I do automatically. I know that I do that. So in order to future pace myself, what I might do is say, okay, I'm going to attach getting into rapport to taking out the binder. And then I'm going to visually rehearse it. I might even get my binder out, and I might take it out and put it on the table and go, okay, rapport, and then start practicing getting into rapport. And then I'll put the binder back down, and I'll take the binder back out. Does this make sense? I'm future pacing myself. I'm programming my mind to trigger, to remember the thing I want to remember. So it happens automatically. So we can future pace ourselves by visualizing in our mind, visualizing the cue that's going to trigger us to do the thing that we want to do. And then anchoring these things is a little bit more complex, but and a little more sophisticated. We won't get too deeply into it. But you can do something as simple as tap yourself on the back of the hand with a little pressure and go, okay, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take the binder out, I'm going to put it up on the table, I'm going to start my rapport thing, get that picture clear in my mind, and then tap yourself on the wrist right as you do it. Tap yourself on the wrist right as you do it. Tap yourself on the wrist right as you do it. And then, anytime you want, you can tap yourself on the wrist, and all of those muscles will come up, and you will pull your binder out, you'll put it down, and you'll get into rapport. And you can program yourself to do these things. And you can add a little physical cue or an emotional cue, or you can make an imaginary cue if you want, to bring these things back, to anchor them. So from now on, when you're building a new behavior change process, get clear on the outcome that you want. Be really specific about it. Don't settle for, I want more, I want a lot, I want enough, I want to feel this. Be specific about the outcome that you want. Clarify it. Make a clear picture of it. Figure out your why. What's the motivation to get you from here to there? Visualize, reaffirm, future pace, and anchor if you can. It's just basic tools to get yourself to go to the next level. And ultimately what you want to do when you start really being proactive is focus that willpower every day on that new thing that you want to do early in the day. Early in the day. Napoleon Hill talked in Think and Grow Rich about creating a burning desire. And I'm paraphrasing what he said, but he basically said that by waking up in the morning every day and looking at your goals, looking at the things that you want to create, and then closing your eyes and visualizing them, that you will develop the desire. You will create the emotions that will lead you inevitably to the success. You can create your own desire by doing this. You can create your own motivation. And one of my favorite teachers, Dennis Waitley, one of the first people I studied when I first started studying self-help and personal development, he had a program called The Psychology of Winning. And he talked about the idea that winners manufacture optimism. They actually have the ability to manufacture their own optimism. What's something in your life that, when you think about it, triggers optimism? You got something? Close your eyes for a second. Think of something that when you think about it, it just triggers optimism. Makes you feel great, like the future is going to be wonderful. It can be anything, as weird as you want it to be. Whatever it is that triggers some optimism, a brighter future, things turning out well. Good. Now write down that thing, whatever it was. Because anytime you want, you can go back and think of that thing, and it will trigger the state inside of you. It's not about the thing, it's about getting into the state. It's about warming yourself up into optimism. Another interesting bit of research that's been developing has to do with memory and thoughts. Ernest Rossi wrote a really interesting, he wrote several interesting books. He wrote a book called The Psychobiology of Gene Expression, which I haven't been able to plow all the way through, but right in the beginning he says something really interesting, which is, he says, every recall is a reframe. Every recall is a reframe. And what he means here is that anytime you remember something, anytime you have a thought that comes up from the past, a memory, you're actually changing it in the process of remembering it. So let's say that you're in a pessimistic mood and you remember something from the past that was a neutral experience. Well, you'll pull it up and you'll think of it negatively. You'll remember the negative aspects of it, and then you will recode it negatively so that the next time you think of it, it will have more of a negative cast. If you're in a positive state of mind when you remember that same memory, you'll pull it up, it'll be in a positive cast, and you'll recode it, and it will go back in more positively. Fascinating. So we are actually in the process of changing our memory all the time. If you want to change something that you perceive as negative having happened to you, get yourself into a positive state of mind, and then remember it. You'll see it in a positive light. You'll see how it was a lesson instead of something that was just difficult. Very interesting the way the mind works. Okay, so let's choose another behavior that we want to change long term. One behavior that you want to change. Let's get a clear picture of an outcome that can be a direct result of this behavior change. Okay, so we want an outcome and a behavior change. The two bookends. Let's come up with a motivation. What's the reason why? What is this going to do for you in your life? Let's visualize this. So do you have the thing that your behavior changed and the outcome? You starting to get this? Good. So take a nice clean sheet of paper, or if you've got most of a sheet of paper, go ahead and finish up here, and write down the outcome that you'd like to have, specific and measurable, at a specific time, and the behavior that you're going to need to change in order to get there. Okay, so you're writing down the outcome you want and the behavior you need to change. Good. Now write down your reason why. What's your why for this? What are you going to get out of this? What are you really going to get? What's the bigger picture benefit? What's the big payoff? If you get this outcome, you actually change this behavior. How's this going to affect your life in a positive way? Now, let's do a little visualization. So just finish writing down your reason why. Close your eyes. Make a clear picture of the outcome that you want, specific and detailed in every way. And make a clear representation of you behaving in the new way that you will be behaving to create that outcome. Imagine how your body will look. Imagine how you'll feel different. Imagine how you'll be moving differently, breathing differently. Imagine the posture that you'll have doing this new behavior. And imagine the feeling that you're going to have inside when you've reached this outcome, when you have created this reality, when you've made it real for you. Now, what little trigger can we use to future pace so that when you're in the situation next and it's time to do the new behavior, it'll remind you. It'll be a reminder, like the binder on the table to get into rapport. What can be your trigger? What's something that when you see it, you hear it, you feel it, will trigger this thought of, it's time to go into this new behavior. You have it? You have the trigger? Find one. This is just practice anyway. This is a tool you're going to be using for a long time, so it's not that big a deal. Find a trigger. What's a cue? What's something that will be in the environment? Consistently happens right when it's time to go into that new behavior. Close your eyes. What I'd like you to do is imagine that cue coming up and triggering the visualization of the new behavior. And what we might do is we might make two pictures in our mind. One is the picture of the cue happening, running as a movie, and one is the picture of the new behavior happening, running as a movie. What we'll do is we'll run the picture in our mind of the cue, of the thing that we want to trigger our new behavior, and then we'll imagine as soon as that happens, it fades, like a movie screen fades into the new behavior. Got two pictures. One, the cue. Two, the new behavior. As soon as the cue appears, it triggers an image, a moving image of the new behavior. In your mind, make that transition 5 times. As soon as you see the cue in reality, it triggers the transition right to that movie and the feeling of that new behavior. Just do that 5 times. Good. Do this every morning until it's automatic. Every morning until it's automatic.
Well, since I was a kid, I always played guitar. Something I learned at an early age, but that I gave up for a number of years. But in the back of my mind, I always thought that when I kind of get other areas of my life handled, I would get back into music.
Okay.
So that's something I'd really like to do. And I used to play a band in high school, so that's something I'd like to get back into.
We have something in common. What's the outcome you'd like to have, specifically?
I'd like to play in a band. I'd like to sing and play guitar.
Okay.
Take the center stage.
Give me a measurable event, a happening that could happen that would allow me to know and measure objectively that you reached the outcome you'd like to have.
Well, part of my visualization was seeing myself playing a live show in the city, being able to invite friends, people I work with, just having, that kind of that atmosphere.
Great.
So doing a gig.
Is there a place in the city?
At the Fillmore?
At the Fillmore? Is that realistic for you, that you'd play at the Fillmore if you got a band together?
It's pretty lofty. I could probably start with something more attainable.
Give me something that's, realistic. Because it's not about playing at the Fillmore, it's about playing in a band.
Sure.
Right?
Sure.
Tell me a place that would be realistic, that if you had a band, you'd probably be playing there.
Right. Bottom of the Hill is a good one.
Okay, Bottom of the Hill.
That's a cool place, yeah.
So, do you have a night or a time that you'd probably play at the Bottom of the Hill?
Yeah, like Friday night.
What
Friday
time?
Or Saturday night, like 10 o'clock.
Okay. So an outcome might be to play in a band on stage at the Bottom of the Hill on a Friday night at 10 o'clock.
Definitely.
Okay. Well, what kind of band? Can you describe the band to me?
It would probably be like a fusion of rock and Eastern music or, Latin music.
Okay. How many band members do you need?
Like 4 total.
4? So you need 3 more?
Yeah.
Do you have any of the others?
Yeah, I have a bass player.
You have a bass player?
Yeah, a friend of mine who plays bass.
Would that be the bass player?
I sure hope so, yeah.
Okay. So you need 2 more
That's right.
players. Okay. So you can imagine you and your bass player now at the Bottom of the Hill, Friday night at 10 o'clock, playing rock fusion
Yeah.
music, right? What else can you add to it? to make it even more specific? You see where we're going here, right?
Yeah.
Add another couple of pieces for me.
To the setting, to the scene, or?
To the outcome. I mean, make this real for me.
Let's see. Just in terms of like what I want the outcome to be, or the steps that I need to get there.
No, the outcome, the picture, the finished picture. It went from, I'd like to have a band back together, to you and the specific bass player playing at the bottom of the hill.
Right.
Rock, fusion music, Friday night at 10 p.m. We're adding a lot of good stuff here. What else can you add to it?
Well, I could picture, the crowd would be really into the music and enjoying it and getting that feedback.
That's not, the thing that's going to make it real for you are the things, think more in the things that you can control, that you'll create.
Well, probably a good one would be getting a really good guitar and getting the equipment that I need. Right now I just have kind of some amateur equipment, practice.
What kind of guitar would you have on that stage with you?
Gibson Les Paul.
You'd be playing a Les Paul?
Yeah.
Do you know what kind of amp you'd have?
No, I don't actually. I should do more research on that.
Okay, but you can see yourself in a Les Paul.
Yeah.
What kind of Les Paul?
Cherry Sunburst, probably.
Cherry Sunburst?
Yeah.
Okay, nice. Do you know what year? Would you want an old one, a new one?
Definitely an old one. Something vintage, yeah, would be great.
Okay, cool. Yeah. Those are kind of expensive these days, but hopefully you can afford it.
Yeah.
They're great guitars. What is the behavior that you need to do right now, every day, to get you to being on stage at 10 p.m. at the bottom of the hill playing rock fusion music with your bass player and the Cherry Sunburst Les Paul?
Practicing every day would be very important, and taking guitar lessons again.
Okay.
And singing lessons as well, because I'm definitely rusty in those. But doing it on a daily basis is important.
Daily music rehearsal and lessons how often?
Like once a week.
So weekly lessons, daily rehearsal. Would that be the highest leverage thing that you could possibly do to get there?
Probably that, and also networking with more musicians and getting out in the music scene, I think.
Okay.
But the practice is probably the most important thing.
Okay, so the mentoring
Yeah.
from the teacher and the daily practice. So can you see how we took this from a little more nebulous down to something a little bit more specific here? Okay. Hopefully you're applying this and maybe making some notes yourself as you're listening to this about clarifying what you want. The next piece that is another lesson that I learned from Tony Schwartz, who wrote The Powerful Engagement. He said this, I remember the first time I saw him speak a few years ago. I didn't know who he was, but he blew me away with his information. He said this, and I couldn't remember what it was, but I remembered the gist of it. Well, you'll know what I mean in a second. He said, there's something that you need to do if you want to actually do your routine or your ritual every day, and no one ever does it. But you need to do it. And it is to plan your routine specifically. So plan the whole thing out. If you say, I'm just going to get some lessons and I'm going to practice every day, you probably won't do it. You probably will do it if you say, by Friday of next week after I get home, I've put accountability in place. I'm going to have interviewed at least 3 music teachers by Friday. And if I don't, I'm paying a price. I've already set aside the 1 hour per day when I'm going to practice. And in fact, I've set aside the 15 minutes before and the 15 minutes after. I call these the on-ramp and the off-ramp, so that I can be ready and I can practice a little bit, getting into the practice, so to speak. Okay? And here's the way I'm going to do it. I'm going to do 5 minutes of warm-up exercises on the guitar. I'm going to play scales for another 5 minutes. I'm going to, do this for 10 minutes. I'm going to play this. And then I'm going to do my vocal training, and I'm going to do warm-ups for 5 minutes. You with me? And you actually plan out the entire new behavior in detail. So planning the new behavior in detail is critical to actually changing the behavior. So how could we make sure that you do it? How could you plan this new behavior in detail? How much time per day would you spend rehearsing?
An hour.
1 hour?
Minimum, I think.
Would it be do all guitar, singing, some of each?
It would be some of each.
Okay. How much of each?
It's like 30 minutes of each.
So you do 30 minutes of guitar, 30 minutes of vocals. What would you rehearse on the guitar?
Definitely scales would be there, chord progressions. Let's see. Some of the songs that I want to learn.
Could you
Yeah.
design an outline of what you're going to do
Yeah.
in your practice? Could you actually
Yeah.
make the practice routine?
I could.
Because you know what most guitar players do when they sit down to practice? This is what I do. We just jam. We just play a bunch of random stuff, and then we come back the next day and we play a bunch of random stuff again, and we wake up 3 years later and we go, why aren't I getting any better? I can still do that cool lick that I play every day, that Van Halen lick from the 70s, with the right hand, right? And what about the vocals? Could you plan that out specifically? What would you do to rehearse and practice your vocals?
For that, I'd probably have to get lessons because I don't know a lot about singing. I know more about guitar, and
So you'd allow your teacher to create an outline for you.
yeah.
By the way, that's much better. Let a master create your practice routine for you. Someone who's been there before. So good for you. How long from today will it take you to find a music coach?
A month, maybe.
A month?
Yeah, max.
Max? And how will you go about that? What will be your attack plan?
I'd probably talk to some of my good friends who are musicians in the area, do some research online,
So
call around.
who's the number one musician who would really know who to send you to?
In this area, probably one of my good friends who's here today, actually, Wade. He used to play in a band.
Okay, so
So he's a
Wade,
lot of
who's the
experience
second
there.
one?
Well, my dad, but he doesn't live locally. But
Okay.
he's really knowledgeable in the music industry. as
Wade,
well.
your dad, who's the third?
Yeah. Geez, that's all I can think of at the
Wade,
moment.
your dad, that's pretty
Yeah.
good. One of them will probably know someone to refer you to,
Yeah.
right? Okay. So you see, I'm narrowing in on the specific things that it's going to take to get this thing done, to make sure it gets done. I'm taking it from a wish and a hope and a fantasy to here are the action steps that I'm going to take. So when could you call your dad and when could you talk to Wade and get these referrals?
Right away. I could do that right away. I could do that tonight
Okay.
after the program.
When could you talk to and interview some of these music teachers?
Probably next week,
Next week?
reasonably.
Okay. And you could have one chosen and in place in a month.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. And then how many days per week would you like to rehearse?
I guess 6 days a week would be good. 5-6 days a week.
5 to 6?
Yeah.
Okay.
Practically.
Could you set the time aside to do this?
Yeah.
Is this something you'd want to do early or late in the day or middle, or when do you think you'd do it?
Probably earlier, just as I need that time to focus and have the energy.
Great.
So,
Good thing to start with something that makes you feel strong.
yeah.
So fantastic. What time of day would you do it?
Probably like pretty early. I have to get up early to go to work, so 7 or 8 in the morning.
Okay, so you'd be up playing your Scorpions riffs on your Marshall
right.
amp at 7 in the morning?
That's right. Full blast.
That's great. Perfect. So as we develop through this here, it seems almost juvenile, right? It's like, oh, duh, that stuff seems kind of simple. We usually wait until we're there to figure it out. What we say is, you know what, I'll figure out what kind of guitar I'm going to get. I'll go to the guitar store and figure it out. I can do that. I can find a teacher somewhere later. We don't actually take our time and our willpower and focus on what am I going to do? What are the steps I'm going to take? What are the action steps I'm going to take? Can you use what you're learning right now? Can you plan the new behavior out? Good. All right. Thank you for coming up and being an example. Thank you. Now, we're going to do some more advanced things later in the program, but I wanted to walk you through, step by step, what it really takes in order to take massive action, in order to make the change happen that you're going to do long term. Now, I'd also, of course, put some kind of accountability in place that would allow you to make sure you do that every day. at least for the first 30 days, 45 days, and then revisit and say, okay, do I really want to do this? You know, if you get too gung-ho and you're like, okay, I'm going to do this every day for 5 years, and I'm going to take the deed to my house, and I'm going to give it to someone, and I'm going to say, this is yours if I don't do this every day for 5 years. And then you wake up a month later and you go, you know, I've changed. I don't really actually enjoy playing guitar anymore, and it sucks. Okay, so you got to be realistic. But a month is a good period of time. You know, 3 months if you're really sure that it's going to be good to make a commitment. And then, of course, you need to act. You need to get feedback. You need to see what the results are. And you need to adjust in your life. If you want to change your behavior, you need to plan your new routine. You need to plan it in detail, specifically. Don't say, I'll figure it out later. Get into a ritual of planning out your new behaviors. Something I've come to realize about getting outside your comfort zone is that it really is an intense experience. It really is something that requires a certain amount of wherewithal, of kind of inner strength to do. And unfortunately, we have gotten kind of mixed up a lot in our lives these days. The internet, the power of the always-on society, being connected to everything all the time, and having, you know, the expectation that you can get in touch with anyone anytime you want, and they can get in touch with you. We're losing our ability to focus. We're getting into what Tony Schwartz calls the gray zone. It's just this sticky place where you're just going from one thing to the next, and you're multitasking and juggling a bunch of things, dissipating your energy, losing your focus. Well, when you're in that confused mess of trying to do too many things, not able to focus on one thing, not putting your willpower into the things that are important, it's hard to say, okay, I'm going to go outside my comfort zone and get yourself to do it, because you don't have the energy to even keep yourself focused on the things that are important. It's extra hard, and when you get close to the edge, you're like, no, I got to get back in. I can't do that right now. I can't deal with it. So in order to get to the edge of your comfort zone and to go over, I believe that as men, we need a base of safety and security. We need to have a strong foundation of safety and security underneath it all. Have you ever seen Maslow's hierarchy of needs? Down there at the bottom are needs like survival and safety and security. Well, we don't address these much in our modern culture. In fact, we think it's a little weird to even talk about it a lot of times. Of course I'm safe, I'm secure, everything's fine. Except that you're anxious all the time, your adrenal system is all taxed, you're worrying about things, you can't keep your mind focused on one thing for more than about 60 seconds. That's not safety and security. That's survival mode. We don't even realize we're in it. We don't realize that we don't feel safe and secure. So one of the things that I've come to believe we need to do as men is take the time, take the energy to create safety and security for ourselves. Set aside time to actually create a foundation of safety and security where we feel safe and secure, whatever that means. And then we need to practice it the way we would practice a sport or practice meditation or yoga or whatever our practice would be, or a game or a video game. We need to practice doing this. This type of woman that I'm talking about, called a total 10, they have that powerful radar system. They can detect all kinds of things that you can't see about yourself. And that woman can sense whether or not you feel safe and secure in your life. You can't fake it for very long. So I ask you, what creates a foundation of safety and security for you? What gives you an inner feeling of safety and security? I can't do questions and answer right now, okay? What brings you that inner, I'm okay. My mentor Jerry taught me, he said, Einstein said the most important question to answer is the universe a friendly place? If you truly feel like the universe is a friendly place, you will feel safe and secure in it. Safety and security will flow from that. How do you get to the point where you feel like safety, like the universe is a safe and secure place, like it is a friendly place? So let's start with the three brains. The physical brain, the emotional brain, and the logical brain. The reptile, the mammal, and the thinker. Physically, what do you need to do to feel safe? One thing that I recommend that you do is create a bed that feels safe. Design your bed 100% intentionally, with complete intention. You spend about a third of your life in it, or you should. Is your bed the ultimate space of safety and security right now? Is it? Have you designed the bed that makes you feel safe and secure? If not, how could you? What could you do? Just take a little moment real quick and add something that would make your bed feel safe and secure. That physical part of us, the reptile brain, is very concerned with this type of thing. That's the part of us that makes the nest for security and safety. And your bed is your nest. That's where you sleep. That's where you go to recharge. That's where you go to escape from everything else. If you've got things near your bed that pull you out of safety and security, get them away from your bed. Move them. Okay, things like, my opinion, telephones, I even think televisions, that kind of stuff. Can you create a bed, a nest for yourself of complete safety and security? So when you go there, you unplug from the world and you say, this is my place where I am going to recharge myself as a man. I'm going to go and be safe and secure, where I can unplug from everything and I can just relax completely. Is this making sense? Yes. I know this is a little weird. I get it, okay? Emotionally, can you create a space in your life where you are emotionally safe and secure? A foundation of safety and security. Is there someone that you trust enough that you have in your life that you could say, I want to take my life to the next level. I want to do things that make me uncomfortable. I want to get outside my comfort zone. And I anticipate that I'm going to screw up once in a while, that I'm going to be embarrassed. I'm going to feel guilty. I'm going to feel anxiety. I'm going to be freaked out. And I just, I need you to tell me that we're going to be okay, no matter what happens. Might be your mom, or someone in your family, a sister. Might be a woman that has more nurturing energy. Might be a guy friend that you really trust. Who can you go to and say, I just need to know that whatever I do, if I fall on my face or I succeed, that I can talk to you about it. I can share my feelings. I can just be safe. I can be emotionally safe if I share it. Create an emotional space of safety that you can go back to your safe harbor if you need it. And then do go back. And next, make a space in your life logically, intellectually. And I think the way to do this is to make some ethical decisions. Decide what you will and won't do. Decide what's right and wrong for you. One that I recommend is make a space inside of yourself where you say, I'm not going to sneak around anymore. I'm not going to do anything that I feel is sneaky. That can be very freeing. My friends Steve and Eric, they've got a term that I like. You guys here? Steve? No, I saw him here a little while ago. You'll be meeting Steve and Eric later today. And you'll know why that's funny then. Steve and Eric say they call men who are kind of always trying to figure out if they can pick off someone else's girlfriend, they call them ass bandits. And they have a particular type of disrespect for that. Now, I don't want to get into too deeply into this, but it strikes me from watching human behavior that we sneak around on our spouses a lot. Okay, this is something that they're finding when they do research. Okay, a lot of us, more than we would ever want to know, our dad isn't who we think it is. A lot of us across all socioeconomic strata. A lot of our ancestors have done a lot of sneaking around. But it's, I think, intellectually very freeing when we say, you know what, I'm just not even going to play that game. I don't even want to go there because I don't want to have to worry about, well, I upset this guy, and then is he crazy? And is he going to be coming after me in 5 years when I don't even know it and waiting behind something? And, for me, that kind of stuff, freeing to just say, yeah, no ass banditing for me. I don't need it. I'd rather, if 50% of women have a significant other that they're committed to, I'd rather talk to twice as many women than deal with that. That's just a suggestion. Whatever fits within your, I'm not trying to tell you what to do, but create an intellectual safe space where you say, I'm going to operate within this realm and I'm going to be okay there. I'm going to feel good about what I do.